What's up, everybody? Well, today I'm here to do another full house cleaning to test vacuum cleaning performance. This time I thought I would feature the Aeris Fresh Era. Essentially, the lightweight upright from Aeris Electrolux that's basically a redesigned version of the Hoover Clean and Light. Not too many people know that the Aeris Fresh Era, as well as the Hoover Clean and Light, were actually made by TTI, the same Chinese company that owns Hoover and Dirt Devil, and now Oreck. Which, interesting thing, before TTI bought Oreck, this was the lightweight upright that they used to compete. And later, when they bought Oreck, this design would later be discontinued, because now they have Oreck's design and they're superior when it comes to lightweight uprights. But I thought I would go ahead and break this out just to show you kind of how this compares to an Oreck. And per the usual tests, I do run fresh new bags. The bag that this takes is a Royal Type B, which is kind of interesting because the outer bag is much larger than the Type B bag itself. It barely even reaches to the bottom. I kid you not. This thing could have ran a totally larger bag, but the collar size for now does fit Royal Type B. So, and let me show you the brush roll on this. It's a CWP brush roll. It does have soft bristles, so it's kind of almost like an Oreck, but yeah, it's got the same chevron pattern as an Oreck, so it funnels all the dirt into the center suction path. But it's got that interesting L-shaped nozzle, typical for Aeris/Electrolux. And also the motor in this is actually a 4 amp motor. So it's just a little bit more than your XL21, yet this one is actually advertised to be at the performance level of the XL21. But the amperage draws about as much as a classic Oreck XL. So I'm interested to see how this all fares out. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started and get to full house vacuuming. And so let's get started. carpet lines. Grooms very nicely, I will say. Since the brush roll is actually made by CWP, they make high quality brush rolls. But I will say one thing about this, and the unfortunate thing about this is the bristles are so soft, it doesn't agitate as good. I wasn't really feeling it that much. The thing I was feeling, though, was the airflow. And because of that, this thing is pretty difficult to push on the carpet that I have. Now, it could just be my carpet, but this thing definitely pulls a lot of air for something of its size, which should make clear, because this has a 7-bladed fan, which the classic Ork XL only has a 5-bladed fan. So even with good grooming action and not as much agitation, hopefully the airflow should be able to make up for it. So let's go ahead and continue on. just like that, the full house cleaning is all complete. I will say my final thoughts of this, using this coming from an Oreck XL Classic. I've even used the XL21, but I will say the extra airflow that this thing produces over a Classic XL is just amazing. It was so amazing that it was difficult to push. And I will say the bristles on the brush roll are about as soft as a Classic XL, but I do think they're not as dense as the Orex. And lastly, the XL21 I think is a little bit more superior of a machine because it has extra airflow and a little bit stiffer bristles that are a little bit more dense. But one thing this vacuum makes up to the both of those Oreck XL platforms, the Classic and the 21, is the fill tube going into the bag is much larger. The Type B bags are absolutely massive. Let me see if I can't get this thing off to show you. Just look at how big the fill tube is. Yeah, it may be small coming from the fan chamber, but the fact it blows into this large Type B fill tube really should make up for that extra airflow, or really is what produces the extra airflow, I will say. But now let's go ahead and take a look at what this thing picked up. Okay, I will say I think I may have underestimated this. I mean, most of it is just fibrous material from the downstairs area rug, but it does have a bit of pet hair mixed in there. So I now am in firm belief that the added airflow from this thing, having a larger fill tube to run a Type B bag, is what ultimately makes up the performance of this. It's really amazing. The bristles may not be the most stiff and it may not have as much agitation, but the airflow definitely makes up for it. Now, this is definitely a representation for this version. I haven't run the Hoover Clean and Light version, but maybe one day I might have to obtain one, so maybe I could run that test, because it does have the same motor as this, but I think the brush roll in that one's a little bit different. We'll have to get one to find out. But with that said, I hope you've enjoyed this cleaning performance video on the Aris Electrolux Fresh Era. Be sure and stay tuned, and don't forget to like, rate, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.